Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to episode 3 of NerdKO. I'm Josh.
I'm Muzz.
And we got some cool stuff to talk to you about today. Last week we talked about shameless video game cash-ins.
Some really good stuff.
Yeah, some pretty awful cash-ins. So this week we've got some more cool stuff to talk about. Me personally, I'm so pumped for Bioshock Infinite. I'm going to talk about how I think it's going to end.
And that's relevant to us right now because the game actually comes out tonight. By the time you see this, you've probably already played the game.
Yep.
But for us right now, it's the future. So, you know, that's that. Then we're going to talk about
Bargain bin gems.
Bargain bin gems. Bargain bin gems. Games that are low on cost and high on fun. You can pick them up for $5, $10 anywhere, and they're really worth playing. You may not have done it before, but after we talk about it, maybe you will.
Yeah, stuff that's worth just way more than the asking price in terms of the quality you get out of it.
Right.
And then finally, Muzz is going to talk about problems with time travel in movies that do it wrong.
Right. I'm sick and tired of watching movies where I see something happen in the movie and I'm like, that can't happen. You can't do that. And I see it so often and I'm so tired of it that we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, and we're talking about just horrible ideas for time travel. Things like someone makes a time machine out of a power glove or something like that.
Right. Yeah, just awful.
Wait, how did you guys...
No time to explain.
We just came back from the future to tell you guys how horrible it really is.
Guys, come on, it can't be that bad. What's so bad that you had to come back and tell us? It's awful. Michael Bay and Uwe Boll have teamed up and created their own video game development company.
Microsoft bought Nintendo.
It's the worst. And EA has just won a humanitarian award and has been judged the best developer in the world. They're buying whole countries now. What do you expect us to do? You can't change anything. Well, why did you even bother coming and tell us? Oh, there's nothing you can do about it. We just wanted to come back and tell you.
Point.
So I wanted to talk to you today about some movies that do time travel wrong. Okay, there are a lot of movies out there, and I'm going to lead right off with Back to the Future. Now I know what you're going to say, oh Muzz, you're crazy. Back to the Future is one of the greatest movies ever, and I agree. I love Back to the Future. But because a movie's great doesn't mean that it does time travel right. And Back to the Future doesn't do time travel right. I'm sorry. It just doesn't. I don't believe that anything in the past can be changed. I don't believe in this alternate timeline, a new timeline in the fifth dimension thing really works, and Back to the Future doesn't do it. In the first movie, Marty travels back in time. He changes the future, and when he goes back into the future, what happens? Well, his dad's successful, his brother and sister are successful, and everything's different. But in the second movie, when Biff travels back and gives the almanac to young Biff and he travels back to the future is still the same. He doesn't travel to the alternate future. He travels to the one with Doc Brown and Marty. And then when Marty and Doc Brown get in the DeLorean, they travel back and they go to the alternate timeline. It doesn't make any sense. Now, I love the Back to the Future movies, but come on, that just doesn't work. Another movie I want to talk about is Frequency. Now, I love Frequency. I thought it was a fun movie to watch, but talk about paradox. And I mean, really, let's look at it. This is the only movie I can really think of that achieves a massive amount of paradox without anyone actually traveling in time. It's really crazy. It's amazing. And the third movie I want to talk about, the movie that just made this whole segment real to me, the movie that inspired this segment, Looper. I can't even begin to talk about Looper and how much of that movie drives me insane, okay? First and foremost, he travels back to the past to be killed by his past self. But he had lived a whole life without remembering that past. It makes no sense. They create paradox like right off the beginning, and then at the end, I'm doing it. I'm giving you a spoiler because I don't want you to watch this movie. I don't want you to waste your time. He offs himself. The young version of him offs himself, creating yet another paradox in the movie. How on earth could any of this have ever happened if there was never an old him to come back to confront the young him? None of it makes any sense. It drives me insane. There are movies that do it right. 12 Monkeys, phenomenal. Perfectly done time travel. If you get the chance, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. Primer, that's another one. Fantastic. There's another movie, a Spanish film called Time Crimes. I believe it's Los Cronos Crimentes or something like that in Spanish. Look for it on Netflix. Time Crimes, phenomenal flick. And if you gotta watch one with your girlfriend, check out Somewhere in Time with Christopher Reeve and Jane Seymour. Phenomenal flick. time travel done right. It can happen, but don't expect it from the movies I named or Time Cop.
Alright, like we mentioned earlier, we want to talk a little bit about Bioshock Infinite because for us it comes out in about 2 hours right now. For you in the future, you probably already played it and already know how the game ends. So at this point in time, I just want to talk about how I feel, or at least how I predict that Bioshock Infinite will end. There's a good chance I could be way off on this. Also, if I am super awesome and right and you're worried that I'm really that good, you might not want to watch this because it could be a spoiler if I do in fact turn out to be right. So my prediction is this, and this is a very quick segment just because this is just something that's been in my head ever since I heard that Bioshock Infinite was going to take place in Columbia, the floating sky city, rather than the underwater dystopian that we're all used to in Rapture. So naturally, where I think the game will head by the third act or so is that in some way, Do It will cause the complete destruction of Columbia. Columbia will descend into the ocean, and I think one of the people one of the denizens of Columbia will be a very young Andrew Ryan, possibly 8, 9 years old, since this takes place in 1911, and the Bioshock 1 and 2 took place in the 50s and 60s. My theory is that a young Andrew Ryan will be a passenger on Columbia, see the whole thing crash into the ocean, which will inspire him to create Rapture, a place completely free from what he considers to be the oppression of like religion and government and people who would drag down what he would consider to be like the cultural and academic elite. So that is my prediction. Let us know in the comments how you thought it would end if you have already beaten it, or how you hope that it will end if you're still in the middle of playing it in about a week or so when this will probably come out. So yeah, that's my thought on how Bioshock Infinite will end. So alright, let's move on.
Alright, so this is Bargain Bin Gems. We wanted to share with you some games that we liked from the past that you can pick up dirt cheap and enjoy yourself.
Yep. So I'll go ahead and start it off. One that I will talk about is, and it wasn't a launch title for the 360, but it was around that same time, it might have been like a year later, is Prey. Now if you never played Prey before, Prey was interesting. You had a Native American protagonist who was in a bar, and what happens is his girlfriend gets abducted by aliens. Everybody knows gets abducted by aliens. They just show up out of nowhere. And they also use Blue Oyster Cult's Don't Fear the Reaper, which is like the coolest time I've ever seen that song used just about. And the whole game is about you kind of like boarding an alien ship and trying to rescue your girlfriend and your loved ones and everything. And it gets points, not just for having really a cool and unique story, but also because it was kind of doing like Portal-y type physics things way before Portal even came along.
And sticking to ceilings and stuff too.
Right.
That was cool.
Yeah,
Really
cool. A lot of perspective shifts, just a really fun shooter, just it kind of came out of nowhere really. And the thing is, now you can probably pick that game up. I think I've seen it as low as like $2.99. Like it's insanely cheap and completely worth your time.
Yeah.
What do you got?
I want to start off with Ninja Blade. Now I've heard a lot of people rip on this game, and I know, it's not like the highest quality game you can play, but let me tell you something. I hate the hack and slash genre.
Right.
And that's what draws me to this game, because this is a hack and slash game that I absolutely loved. And I don't know what it was. There's quick time events, there's hack and slash, there's giant enemies running through, you know, ninja slicing things.
Right.
I mean, just everything that's fun about Ninja, and then you can unlock all these crazy costumes for your character. I mean, just everything this game did, it felt like it did it right to me, and it's corny, and it's campy, and it's cheesy, but it's 20 kinds of fun.
Right, and that's what I was about to say, like it might be all but it's also fun.
Yeah,
and that's
it's like Earth Defense Force 2017. It's a hailed game that's just corny as all hell.
Sure.
And this I think fits in that category. So I say for, you know, $4.99 or less, you cannot beat this game.
Right on.
Yeah.
Okay, I will go with a game that could have turned out very, very corny and very awful, but actually ended up being a very harrowing experience. And I will say Manhunt for PlayStation 2, the original. It was a Rockstar game, one of the lesser-known titles, really. And not because it was bad. This was not like a state of emergency affair or something like that. Manhunt was a game where you played a character named Cash, and you thought you were on death row, and then you wake up to find you're actually part of this kind of sadistic madman's gang who's rigged up cameras everywhere and has unleashed like these psychopathic gangs to come track you down and kill you. But the real delight from the game comes with the way you get to dispatch these enemies. I mean, you can just like smother people to death with a plastic bag, and it was one of those games where the more time you took to kill somebody, you might endanger yourself, but you got way cooler, and just these grisly animations, like you would crack someone's head open with a bat and see the eyeball actually fly out towards the camera when you did it. It was just truly just a horrific game.
Yeah, and you know, that's one of those games that just got all this negative attention and everything, and so much in fact that the censorship and the way they did the second one, it kind of was ruined.
Right.
Because they were afraid it was going to be too violent. So the first one scores better than the second one.
Right. And yeah, I will say that the second one, there are pirated versions of the second one that I've seen online which take out the censorship. I'm not telling you to go do that. I'm saying if you are that kind of person, it does exist. And bonus points for Brian Cox being the voice of the director in the first one. It was horrifying. It was very much like watching a snuff film. It was just a horrible game. And it's like $4.99. So great game, Manhunt. What's your last one?
I wanted to talk about this because this is a game I really love. The Thing.
Speaking of horror.
Yeah. This is so good. And I mean, especially if you're a John Carpenter fan, if you love the original, I mean, and you can watch the newest one, the prequel, then you can watch the original John Carpenter's The Thing, and then you can play this game because this game takes place right after the first movie. And the beautiful thing about this game is it does things that other games have never since done, as far as I can tell, and never did before. You find other survivors and they become teammates and members of your team, but you don't know who to trust. Because if you know the movie, you know that anyone can be a thing. So you get these syringes and you can test people, and if you do things to make other people nervous, they don't trust you. You actually have a little trust meter. And you know, if you freak someone out too much, you shoot at them or whatever, they just run off and leave you behind. It's awesome.
Now it's been a while since I've seen The Thing in action. Like whenever you would test to see if somebody was one of the aliens, like wasn't that a finite resource as well? So like you had to be judicious about using them.
Yes. You had so much and you used it when you could, and only when you thought you needed to. You know. So it really made for gameplay mechanics unlike any other game for its time and any other game since, as far as I know. And again, I sell this game for $4.99. Well, yeah, I remember when that came out. And it's backwards compatible.
Nice. And I remember that being kind of an oddity too, because like that, of course, was not a cash-in at all. When that movie came out, or I'm sorry, when this game came out, the movie was way old. There was no talk of a sequel being in development. Nobody knew anything. It was just,
well, you know, but when this game came out, you know, most of the kids playing games at that time didn't know about the movie.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
they just thought it was a cool horror.
Yeah, if anything, this led people to go watch the original movie. Well, not the original. I'm sorry, the remake, the John Carpenter version of the movie. So yeah, I definitely say if you haven't played it and you have the chance, The Thing, it's awesome.
So those are our picks for Bargain Bin Gems. Let us know what are some rare finds that you found, like things that might not jump out at you immediately as the funnest or the most economical purchase, but then like you popped in and it's an absolutely amazing treat. Let us know what you think of it in the comments.
Yeah, and we'll definitely come back to this one again because there are a lot of games just like these. Alright, so we really hope you enjoyed this episode of NerdKO. Stay tuned. Next week we're going to be doing worst box art on a video game ever.
Of which there are many. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to both of our channels. Hit us on Facebook, Twitter, and all those things. And I think that's all we got for this week.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so how do you want to end the show? I feel like we always get to this place and we don't really...
We never plan this.
Yeah.
We really need to plan.
We should really talk about it. It's like,
hey, do you guys buy these?
And where the thing
be smugger.